Hi, everybody. It is nice to be here. I will be getting into visualizing branded experiences and experiential design. Kind of named this one Watch the Market because it seems to be like an ever-changing market. So I'm going to try to hurry up and get through this to leave some room for questions and whatnot. So we can go ahead and jump right in. Getting used to this clicker thing. Okay, so just going through everything that we're going to kind of go over today. So I set up a track list because, you know, I'm a DJ, love music. The market shifts, embedded brand identity, seeing the journey, and then mind the gap is kind of what we're going to go through here. So the shift. So during the pandemic, we have definitely seen some major shifts when it comes to talent acquisition and talent attraction, especially when it came to going from the Great Resignation, where people were leaving their jobs en masse, to a lot of these companies who have hyperinflated and now are going through layoffs. But even though we've gone through both of these shifts here, we're still finding that the ball is still in the candidate's court, and we still have to find ways to make sure that these candidates want to work for these companies. So one thing that definitely needs to happen is that we have to continue to focus on what the wants and needs of these candidates are. So really looking at the market, following the market, and really getting transparent when it comes to the things that these candidates are wanting to see. So I have these red slides throughout my presentation that I like to call cheat codes. And so as they come up, I'll go ahead and get more into like what those mean. But here for embedded brand identity, you know, you're really wanting to create a brand identity where your brand is woven into everything that you do. So I know that a lot of us think about that as like, okay, I'm going to create a social media post and then I'll post it on all the different platforms. It really isn't going to work anymore. The whole cookie cutter thing, the whole one size fits all, not really going to work. So not only do you have to make sure that your brand is woven into everything that you do, but that also it is tailored for the audience and the platform that you're pushing it out to. So not only is it going to be tweaked, but you also want it to be a brand where no matter where they see it, no matter where they're looking at it, they always know it's you. So I don't know if you guys are like me and you're constantly like looking at different examples of like other people's branding, but I can always tell when it's a Procter & Gamble video. You know, they're always tugging at your heartstrings. They're always getting deeper into that point. So no matter when that logo comes up, you already know it's them. Right, so then we're getting into embedded cultural ethos. So you might notice I like to embed things a lot. That's a thing of mine. And so basically embedding cultural ethos is really leaning into the cultural nuances of a lot of these audiences that we're trying to target and bring into these companies. So let's get into that a bit. So really leaning into the culture. So again, that one size fits all thing ain't gonna cut it anymore. So we're really having to cater to these different audiences, you know, putting diversity, equity, inclusion woven into the brand identity, making sure that the importance of DEI shows up in the talent brand ecosystem throughout everything that we're doing. And even thinking about catering to a lot of these different demographics as you're going to these diversity conferences and things like that, actually coming up with swag or imagery or visuals that would really even subconsciously speak to these communities because you're using different design elements from their culture. You're using different colloquialisms from, you know, their own culture that they truly understand, that speak directly to them and really make them think and feel and do things. So As of October 2021, about 76% of job seekers named diversity as an important factor when evaluating an employer. And so one of the biggest things there that I want us to begin leaning into is transparency. I know a lot of companies have a lot of problems with being transparent and putting a lot of information out there that can make them vulnerable. But honestly, we have to fight for these companies to do that because that's what these candidates want to see. They're tired of the really fluffy, we're doing all these great things, we're such a diverse company, but then when they actually get to the company, they don't stay because we didn't tell them the truth. We weren't transparent about where we are in our diversity journeys. So really, when you're activating your EVP, don't just design individual pieces that speak to diversity or have these adjacent diversity manifestos or diversity statements. Truly think about weaving that into your new brand as you're rolling out with your EVP. So curated experiences. So that's another thing, not getting into the whole cookie cutter thing. So really curating experiences and making sure that they are unique and individualized and really make people feel special. So how can you solidify your talent brand's presence? Well, by no longer thinking about talent brand in isolated objects and thinking about the entire experience. So here we are, visualizing the experience. So it's really hard to make sure that you have a solid, fluid, branded experience if you haven't taken the time to sit down and actually visualize it. So one thing you may want to do is actually sit down and literally map it out or draw it out. I know one thing that we've tried, we wrote down the different touch points in the experience on note cards and then put them in the order that we thought that they were in. We then actually went through and did surveys of all of our different processes to actually map out our candidate journeys and what that looks like. I know specifically for top of funnel, we're drilling down into how many touch points does it take before a potential candidate goes from passive to actually applying for the role. So really sitting down, mapping it out, visualizing it, seeing it on paper is really what's going to help you figure out what that journey looks like and also help you fill in any gaps that you may have. So minding the gap. So if you're looking at top of funnel, are you utilizing every touch point possible to bring in, those candidates? At first touch, is it, quick? Is it timely? Is it, are they being communicated to in the right ways? Engagement, are you engaging at every level possible? Are you keeping them engaged? Are you losing them because you've created radio silence in between accepting the application, confirming receipt, and actually getting it to the recruiter? Are you setting up nurture campaigns to keep these people warm, to let them know that you're still thinking about them, you still want them in your talent community? Are these resumes falling into a black hole? Is there any sort of accountability system in your ATS or your CRM that is allowing folks to ensure that, they're always getting responses, they always know what's going on with their process, or are your interview loops too long? One thing that we've kind of found is that in some of our technical interviews, these people are interviewing for hours and hours, even full work days. And for anybody, that can be draining. So are we losing people in this whole interview loop-de-loop? And then after the interviews, how long is it taking to get back to them? Are you giving feedback? Are you actually giving declines? I know I've heard of some companies that just don't give declines because they want to keep them in the talent community. But at a certain point, you do have to communicate what's going on in their process. And then with your onboarding, is your onboarding as seamless as your entire interview process was? Is it the same branding? Are they getting introduced to something totally new and foreign? So are all of these things aligning is what you really want to be able to look at when you do visualize that entire process. So then I kind of wanted to get into talent characteristic and skill pools. I know that one thing that we're all used to and kind of staked our bread and butter on was talent personas. But one thing that personas can do is embed bias. Once we put a name, a face, an age, a particular educational background on a particular set of skills, it's going to create bias. It's going to create embedded bias in our systems, in the way that we approach candidates, in the way that we try to choose our candidates, and it's only going to continue to perpetuate that bias. So as you're looking at personas, you may want to start switching to more behavioral science-based talent characteristics and skill pools. So you may not know if what the age range will be or how many years of education, but you know that there are specific characteristics for the type of software engineers that you need. There are specific skill sets and skill pools for the brand designers that you need to bring in. So starting to move away from, putting these names, faces, and all these other demographic information on these characteristics, and really looking at the behavior more so than these invented people that we've called personas. Right? And then design experiences and not objects. I think a lot of times, a lot of us get hung up on, okay, I need to design these swag items for this conference, I need to design this booth for this conference, I need to design this object, these stickers. Instead, design entire experiences and then figure out how those objects fit into the experience. So now that you're visualizing your experience, you're seeing the gaps, it's time to fill them in. So visualizing that candidate journey and process is going to definitely allow you to fill in those gaps, especially when it comes to marketing and recruiting. And that's going to enable you to really serve up a white glove experience. I know a lot of us were kind of used to serving up that white glove experience in person and haven't figured out how to get it to translate to this new remote hybrid world that we're in, but that's what visualizing that experience is for. We've made this huge pivot away from on-site and things like that, where we could really give tours of the offices, give swag to people as they come in, things like that, where we're really having to figure out how to shift that virtually. The things that we can do to make those people feel special, even in a virtual experience, even if it's a phone call instead of an email to give news or information. Maybe it's beefed up interview prep kits that you can give to your candidates. Maybe it's simple as Zoom backgrounds to give to candidates for their interviews to cut down on unconscious bias based on what people may see in their background. So there's different things that we can do to continue giving a really special experience to candidates, even though we can't have them come into the offices just yet. So embedding your brand. So you definitely want to look at a few different places where branding can really be embedded that sometimes are forgotten about. So really recruitment marketing, I know a lot of us are still trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, especially in this post-pandemic marketing world. Marketing has totally shifted, changed, the technologies have changed, the technologies have updated, the way we can target is changing. So definitely looking at that in depth and creating cohesive, fluid branding with your recruitment marketing experience, so that no matter what the touch point is, no matter if it's banner ads, it's in-feed videos, it's YouTube ads, it's Spotify ads, that no matter what it is, your brand is so embedded that the minute that people see it or hear it, they know exactly who it is and what you're doing. And then, in recruiting communications, I know that in a lot of situations that we've found in mapping our journey, some of our sources and recruiters are just kind of winging it when it comes to comms. Whatever works for them is what they go with. And that doesn't create a cohesive experience for candidates who may be applying for more than one role. So you do want to begin to dig into what those recruiting communications do look like when it comes to going out to your candidates, to ensure that they're getting the cohesive branded experience that you want them to have. You want to make sure that as soon as that email hits the inbox, they know exactly who it's from. There's no question about it. They're excited to open it. And then I brought up interview prep. That's a big thing that a lot of us can start doing for our candidates in order to help them feel special, especially for those more niche roles, those technical roles, those things where you know that interview process is going to be a bit grueling. give them information, let them know what it's going to be like, offer mock interview questions, things like that, packets so that they feel more prepared about what they're about to step into in 8 hours or 5 hours of interviewing, which can be completely daunting. And then your offer accept. You want that to be a very special experience. This is that moment where the candidate has made it. They've won the Super Bowl. You've presented the offer. We're now at the accept part where we're sending offer letters. You want that to be branded. You want it to be special. Maybe think about including videos from their hiring managers, from your leadership that are congratulating them on coming on board and really making that experience special where they may have had it in office, but they're not getting it virtually. So those little things. And then upping your candidate experience as a whole. So, you may want to totally revamp your virtual experience to try to mirror what your on-site interview process was. Embedding the culture of the potential candidates into your brand is kind of something big that you can easily do that will even subconsciously attract people to the brand and make them more interested. Again, providing materials and information that make candidates feel like they already have the job, like you're rooting for them, you're cheering them on, you want them to do well. Even your interview process not being a secret. Let them know what the process is, what to expect, how many rounds, what they're going to go through. Really help them truly be prepared so that they feel like, okay, this recruiter, this sourcer, this hiring manager actually wants me to win. And visualizing that candidate experience, again, helps you to ensure that you can see the gaps. You can fill them in. You can start figuring out what programs need to be placed where they need to come into place so that you're giving candidates that experience you truly want to give them. And then again, embedding your brand throughout the entire experience, just making sure that no matter where, what, who, they always know that it's you, no matter if the logo's popping up or not. So, create a brand identity with the embedded cultural ethos of the talent that you want to attract and a design that follows them throughout their experience. And that is how you will really get to capture all this really good talent and really still make them feel special and give that white glove experience we're really used to giving. So, with that, this is my contact information.
Amazing.